is apparently attributed to King Solomon. It's an apt response to your question. You see, Phil, the future is predictable because everything in the past repeats itself. Wars, famine, drought, pestilence, invasions, acts of God, mad kings, dodgy fashion trends, they all come around again. It's just a matter of working out when. And how do you do that? Asked Philibert. Cosmic energy. You mean you read the stars? No, you don't just read them, you feel them. You allow them to penetrate deep inside your anatomy and connect with your spirit. You see, everything around us is made from the same four elements: water, fire, earth, and wind. The stars are no different. It's all linked, all part of the heavens that surround us and bind us. That's cosmic energy. It's a power that runs through all living things. Phil got up and walked to the small window. He peered into the night sky, where a clear evening had empowered the stars to twinkle like sunlight skipping across rippled waves. In Chambard's mentorship, Phil had learned much over the past decade, much more than the average commoner could expect to learn in a lifetime. He could read and write a decent amount of French. He knew a vast amount about social etiquette across all layers of society, and the differences from country to country. Practical skills such as woodwork, metalwork, and the care of animals were all highly developed. But what he knew about the stars he could etch on the side of a miniature candle. Other than overhearing people refer to the really famous ones, he knew they were bright, plentiful, always in the sky, and that was about it. There are just so many. How do you remember them all? Oh, it's easy, really. Just a couple of decades of intense study, said Michel, sarcastically. What's that one? Asked Phil, pointing into the sky through the iron bars that acted as a barrier to limit the escape of anything larger than a limb. Michel moved over to the window to see what he was pointing at. Which one? That group of stars over there. What's that? Phil was indicating to a group of 8 or 9 stars that seemed to him to be in a pattern. That's a constellation. They tell stories of famous legends from history. I know that. I meant, which constellation is it? That one is Isabella the Fierce. Really? What's the story behind that one? Isabella was a Greek warrior who slayed the mighty 9-toed giant, Colin of Byzantine. Not many scholars are aware of her story. A female warrior? I didn't know the Greeks were so progressive. That's because you've never been to school, said Michel insultingly. And that one? Asked Phil, like an excited infant. That's Giles, the temporarily annoyed. What? He was a famous mythical figure from Sparta who, as the story goes, was known for an inconsistent level of attitude. 1 minute he'd fly off the handle, and the next good as gold. And they named a constellation after him. Don't look at me as if it's my fault. I just remember them. Someone else names them. And that one? Erastus, half man, half dolphin. See that line of stars? It's meant to depict his waist, and the few stars below that are his flippers, said Michel confidently, as he pointed out all his descriptions. That's strange. I don't know much about stars, but I could swear someone told me that was Orion. Oh, that one. Yes, that one is Orion. I thought you were pointing to the one next to it. Michel reeled off the names of constellations without so much as a pause for thought. Each one came with a detailed yet implausible backstory. At least they seemed implausible in today's context. Back in Greek times, everything sounded plausible. A god transforming into a swan, a woman whose eyes could turn you to stone, and a man who was so incredibly hungry he apparently ate himself to death. It was laughable to think how stupid the old times were. How could the Greeks be so gullible? It would be the equivalent of people in the Middle Ages believing that 300 rose petals would cure the plague, or saying God bless you after sneezing prevented the devil crawling up your nose, or that the best way to identify witches was to see if they could float. No one was that stupid, surely. So, What has Colin the nine-toed giant or Stacy the one-legged eunuch got to do with writing prophecies? Alignment. We observe the patterns of stars and the movement of planets through the constellations. When certain planets move into certain star signs, they indicate and influence the present. The cosmic energy interferes with the Earth and brings about a repeat. If we know when Saturn moves into the constellation of Jerome the Midget, a great storm devastates Germany, then there's a good chance of it happening next time. Jerome the Midget. That one there, said Michel, scanning the sky. How do I know you're telling me the truth? You don't, but I can justify it by saying I am Nostradamus. He unfurled his now familiar pose. Can you teach me to write them? Asked Philibert. No, he replied sternly. Why not? The real